What's going on, guys? Discussion time, episode 75. Blunted alien response. Topic: having children and inalienable human rights. Sterilization. Is it ever okay to say that some people should not be allowed to have children? It depends on the circumstance. Going further into the question, should a crack addict be stopped from having children as they may pass their addiction onto their child from birth? Yeah, this is what I mean by circumstances. Like, it's hard enough bringing a kid into the world if your financial side is already a struggle, but if there's other things that, like drugs involved, or health reasons, that just adds to the financial side already. So I don't think a crack addict should be bringing a kid into the world in the first place, because they're clearly not in the right place to start with. And that kid's probably highly likely to get taken off of them anyway. So that'll be another kid in social services and without parents. So they should think, but obviously when you're on drugs, you're not thinking. So I don't think a crack addict should have a kid. And obviously, as you say, they're putting all that shit into their system. That kid's going to get it if the mother is doing that. That kid is going to pick up all the side effects from the drug whilst they're in their mother's stomach. Is it okay if a billionaire paid certain people to not have children by having those people sterilised? No, I don't think that is alright. Regardless of the amount of money you have, if you're a billionaire, celebrity, whatever it is, I just read the question wrong. I just realised. Obviously, this could have a positive effect. So I think it could work, but obviously some people aren't going to care about the amount of money it is. They're just going to be like, well, it's my decision whether I have a child or not. So it's a difficult one to answer that, but maybe if more billionaires, more celebrities and that people look up to as idols, maybe if they did get more involved, some of this could be cut down. But it's a difficult one, because at the end of the day, people's decisions are their decisions, and sometimes money isn't going to change that. Are we giving too much power to the rich if we let them decide who should have children? That is another good point. Obviously, people with money already have a lot of power and in positions to kind of bully people in a way as well, or intimidate. So there is a high potential that could give them people even more power. Would we be interfering with nature too much? There's an argument that you could be, but at the same time, it's not a healthy nature if that's a drug addict that's bringing a kid in, because obviously, as I said before, they're going to have problems. Does this lead to a slippery slope? I believe it does, because there's going to be problems for that kid going forward through social services and care and shit. And will there be a growing demand for certain people not to have children? That's another possibility. But at the same time, you can't stop people doing what they want to do. Like, if a drug addict's going to have a kid, they're going to have a kid. You can't stop it. You can try and put measures and obstacles in place to try and prevent it, but the likelihood is down to that person and their decision. So, will there be a growing demand for certain people not to have children, like people with disabilities, poorly educated people? I think people, like society on a whole, will fight against people with disabilities and poorly educated people, but at the end of the day, they're not going to stop them. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. Will it become necessary in the future for there to be a focus on mitigating population growth and fewer resources by sterilising some parts of the population? Who knows? Like, it's hard to predict. It's playing with nature at the same time, isn't it? So it's a dangerous game. Like, I don't really have an answer for that part of the question, but it's difficult. Both voluntary and even involuntary. What if this approach led to fewer crimes being committed. Yeah, obviously that's going to be a good thing if there are fewer crimes being committed, but you just don't know. Like, there's no set answer unless you gather up you do a research and do a poll of past cases. But obviously these things got to be put in place for you to look at that research. So until that happens, it's difficult to predict. Less competition for jobs, resources, etc. Yeah, but there's always room for people to have jobs. And I think you need competition for jobs because it brings out the best in everyone. When you got competition, most cases it brings out the best in you, no matter what the subject is. So I don't think that's necessarily a good thing if there's less competition for jobs. If society was in a better shape, would it justify sterilization? In some cases, I think, like with drug addicts or people with disabilities, like if you think that kid's gonna have such a hard life because their parents are disabled or something and they can't look after them properly, then obviously it's going to affect that kid. But at the same time, you can't really tell that person who the parent is what they can and can't do. Like, it's their life, so it's a touchy subject. What this could also mean is that certain people wouldn't have existed, like Tricky, Jay-Z, etc. This is a bad thing, surely. Maybe even poor people. Well, Jay-Z, for example, one of the global icons and celebrities, built an empire. I think I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's up there, money-wise. He's made a success coming from the projects, drug dealing when he was very young, hanging with the wrong people, but he made a positive situation in the long run out of it. And now look at the guy, like, he's a businessman. So you could have a hard life and come from bad places, but if you got the determination, sacrifice, and all that good stuff, like, you're gonna pull through. So I think you have to judge it on case by case, but I think it is a bad thing. But case by case, as I said, like, not everything's gonna be good and bad. Like, some things that not everyone's gonna be Jay-Z, for example. Like, everyone's different, so it's hard to put an exact answer on it, but the world wouldn't be benefiting from less people like Jay-Z, for example, because it creates other job opportunities for people working for him to alter their lives and improve their lives. So yeah, that's it. Very good questions. Tricky subject, but that's what it's about. Shout out Blunted Alien for the topic. Give me some more topics in the comments, people. As I said, my target is 100. I'll get into 100. If you don't give me the topics, I'll create the topics. So you might as well get involved where you can. You don't want to fuck with the real ones.